some of our current students. All of you who are joining us as part of this session, you are more than welcome to turn your videos on. We always love seeing people's faces and seeing that feedback, kind of that visual feedback of people participating. So if you want to and feel comfortable, you're welcome to turn your videos on. We are here to really give you kind of an overview of the student experience from the biomedical engineering perspective. And so I want to first thank all of the students that are joining us that are current biomed students. So thank you all for participating and for kind of lending your voice and your experience to biomedical engineering and to current students. And we're just gonna, as people show up, we'll just admit them as they're here. This is like, many of you are probably in our last session or the informational session. This is a time for you to kind of gain more information and ask questions because we've got current students here. It's a great way to really learn kind of that day in the life experience a little bit more than kind of the details about the program. So please ask any questions that you have. In this session, it would be more preferable if you actually kind of unmute yourself and ask the question if you're able. If you are not able, we totally understand, and you can ask questions in the chat. And then the last thing to know is that we will be recording this session. So this session will be available to you and to all of your friends or parents to view at any other time. So just know that this will be recorded. And if that does change your participation level, just be aware that that is something that will be happening. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it all over to our current biomedical engineering students and have you introduce yourself one by one. And we'll just do it popcorn style so you all know who you are. And so somebody just gets to jump in, and then whenever somebody's finished, the next person can jump in after that.
Cool, I can go first. Hi everyone again. I'm Camille. I am a 5th year studying chemical and biological and biomedical engineering. Yeah, so glad to see everyone here again.
Hi everyone, my name's Katie and I'm also a 5th year studying chemical and biological engineering with biomedical engineering.
Hi, my name is Peter. I'm a 5th year studying mechanical engineering and biological math with the biomedical engineering.
Hi everybody, my name is Michelle. I'm studying biomedical engineering with chemical and biological engineering, and I'm in my 4th year.
And I am also Katie, and I'm in my 5th year studying biomedical and electrical engineering.
Great. So I will kind of moderate the panel, if you will, and so I will just be keeping an eye on any questions that pop up in the chat feature, as well as, again, if you do have questions at any time, feel free to unmute yourself and ask if you would like. I'm just going to kind of throw out a couple softball questions to all of you panelists, so just some kind of easier questions that you can answer, and then maybe that'll generate kind of other questions from participants. So let me go ahead and ask, let's talk a little bit about kind of what your favorite thing in your program. That's another thing I didn't mention earlier is I do have a coworker or a tiny human that is part of my everyday life. So at some point my tiny human may just interrupt and be here. So that's just part of the world that we're in. So if I do need to step away, this is why. But let me just ask a question to the panelists really quick. If you could just really quickly, or with as much detail as you'd like, tell us kind of your favorite thing about being a part of this program.
Cool, yeah. One of my favorite things about this program is how well they've thought about everything in terms of biomedical engineering. Biomedical engineering is such a broad field, and to be able to specialize in one specific aspect of biomedical engineering is super helpful. And to be able to see that in your biomedical engineering classes, because when you are in those classes, you will be in classes with an electrical engineer, a mechanical engineering student, and a chemical and biological engineering student. And so it's really nice and really fun to kind of see what different people take with different problems and like what stances they take. For like chemical and biological engineers, you'll take kind of that chemistry route, but for mechanical engineers, they'll take more of that kind of process or the way that things are built route. And so it's kind of nice to collaborate between those people.
Oh, Camille kind of stole mine. My absolute favorite part of the program is exactly that. I love that this is a program that allows you to work with engineers that are not in the same field as you. I think it's so interesting and so like enlightening to hear the perspectives of an electrical engineer and a mechanical engineer compared to the way I think through processes. It's a very unique program in that sense. Like if you just get a degree in one of our other engineering disciplines, you're going to be in a lot of classes just with that discipline. And so what's nice about this is you do get to be in those interdisciplinary teams. For my senior design project, I've been on a team with some biologists that are working just in like the microbiology and immunology part of CSU. So it's really cool how you can see the overlaps between the engineering side of that and then other programs throughout CSU as well.
I'd have to really agree with Katie on the whole like idea that you can do stuff outside of engineering, but stuff that's still like, you know, within the realm of biomedical engineering and stuff that like is interesting to you. I do undergraduate research, but I don't do it in the engineering department. I do it in the College of Health and Human Sciences, and I do computational neuroscience and stuff that deals with like neuroimaging. And like, it's really cool because like I don't really get to see that or experience that in any of my classes that are in the progression of CBE or BME. But it's really nice because I'm actually like looking to do that in my career later on. So things having to do with like biomedical software engineering, which is like something that I don't think I really would have seen or come across if I was, you know, just doing my regular classes.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I totally agree. The interdisciplinary aspect is phenomenal, and it's something very unique. I've talked to a lot of students from across the state, it's across the states and different colleges, and it's a very unique thing. So yeah, not to sound like a broken record, but that, and you know, let's say you are very interested in mechanical engineering, by doing that dual major, you open up a ton of doors, and then vice versa. So having that other partner major really opens a lot of doors.
Again, yeah, just agreeing with what everyone else said. And also, I was like really scared to go into college and double major because I was really like set on biomed. But I think like having to decide a second major, that definitely opens up your options for work. Like since I'm electrical, I can go so many different routes with that alone. But then like with the biomed also, I can do like anything in the medical field. Like everything needs electrical engineers across the entire world. So it was scary at first, but it's definitely been the right choice.
Cool. So part of the reason why I asked the 5 of you to be here is also because you all have such really cool experiences and things that you've done outside of your degree plans. So kind of another probably softball question to each of you is what is kind of the neatest or coolest thing or most impactful thing that you've been involved in outside of your academics?
I love this question. I am involved in ISPE, which is the International Society of Pharmaceutical Engineering. I'm actually now the president of that student organization. And so what's really nice about that is ISPE, along with many other student organizations, is a great way for you to network with industry partners. And so every event that we kind of have is really to bring someone from industry and to talk about their sector of what they do in pharmaceutical engineering. And so that's opened us up to a lot of biotech companies. So within clinical consulting, clinical management, clinical design, whatever it may be, it's really helpful to be able to see what they do and to sometimes get a tour or to just kind of talk with them about, like I said, what they do with biotech industry.
I think I have 2 answers for this. So the first one would definitely be an internship that I started off after my 3rd year of college, and then I'm still in it today. But it's been focused a lot around researching genetic mutations that are linked to various autoimmune disorders, which I found very interesting. Genetics was never really an area that I considered myself to be like passionate about, but I've actually found it very interesting, and I've learned a lot from that experience. And it was great to, take what I was learning in the classroom and actually apply it for a company and know that I'm working on real solutions to help people be better every day. So that was very influential and definitely great experience. So internships rock. And then I'd also say, secondly, on-campus jobs. So I work as a student ambassador with Camille and Michelle, and we work for the College of Engineering. And it is wonderful. We get to talk to students like all of you each day. We get to talk to prospective students, tell them about our experiences, get them pumped up about engineering because engineering is awesome. And it's a great way to not only connect with, future Rams potentially, but also get to know other classmates around you who are studying engineering as well. So just like Camille said, getting involved with, whether it's an organization or an on-campus job, those are great ways to, network and just have an escape to do something else other than engineering.
Yeah, kind of touch on that. I would say for me, the opportunity to gain professional work experience before graduation, I found to be really cool because what enabled me to do was I was able to go work and then kind of see the relevance of a lot of the coursework that I did prior to work. And then also I was exposed to maybe some gaps of things that, I haven't been exposed to yet. And then when I did go back to school, a lot of that coursework was more relevant because I could see, having had the work experience, it felt more relevant. And then just, having the opportunity to have different work experiences and kind of get a feel for, do I want to be at a big company or a small company? Do I want to be, doing regulatory things, or do I want to be doing things with data? So to me, that work experience before graduation has been kind of the coolest part for me.
Yeah, definitely. I would say getting involved on any organization or research or anything on campus, but also there's other opportunities that exist outside of engineering, like I said, and we have a really, really big study abroad program at CSU, and I'm pretty happy and pretty fortunate to say that I've been a part of that. So I studied abroad in the UK in spring 2019, and then I also right after that I did a research internship in Germany for that summer. So all of these opportunities are through CSU. So it's really there's so many resources is what I'm trying to say, that if you want to do something, there's definitely a person who can help you do it. And there's students who have done it as well. So there's so many people to learn from and stuff. And I think the biggest takeaway that I got from studying abroad and working abroad is meeting so many incredible people and just really expanding your network for after graduation.
To kind of piggyback off Michelle, I also studied abroad in Ecuador. We every year, I think they're going to try to start doing it during the winters too. There's a prosthetic innovation in Ecuador in Quito, and I went in summer 2019, and it was 9 days there, and we worked with 16 patients and provided them with prosthetics through ROMP, which is Range of Motion Project. They're a nonprofit. And it was absolutely amazing. So I would say definitely get involved with study abroad if you want to do that. I mean, it was kind of scary, but I went in knowing nobody. Luckily, my advisor through Biomed, she actually went on the trip. So that was nice. But I met 21 other CSU students, and it was also open to all majors. So there were some health and exercise science students there too, which was really awesome. So yeah, get involved with stuff like that. And then also it's super easy to get involved with research here at CSU. Professors are always looking for people to come in and learn from them. So my current senior design project, I actually worked on all of last year, which was really nice being able to continue that and learn more and be able to do more this year. So yeah, just get involved with anything you can because it's easy and there's so many resources and everyone at CSU is awesome.
Cool. Thank you all for those answers. I'm going to create just a little bit of dead space here just to see if any of you all participants here, if you all have questions of our panelists that you would like to focus on.
I have a question. Have you all been there the full 5 years, or did you transfer into CSU later on? If so, how was that transition with the school and living life?
Yeah, so I think that's a question that I can answer pretty well. I am a transfer student, so I spent 1 year at another four-year institution, and although I was able to transfer in with a lot of credits and everything, it didn't really work out like perfectly. So I will when I finish, so I will do my 5 years here, but in total I will have done 6 years. So, it's just part of life. I get that. I mean, the way I like to explain it is that like it's just part of things happen and stuff, but it's like part of the bigger journey. And I really don't regret it. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, and I don't want it to like sound like it's negative. But yeah, like I think that all the opportunities and things that have been able to do in these 4 years so far, and then I still have like one more year to go. I don't see it as like, oh my gosh, 6 years. I see it as like, okay, I have 6 years, so I'm gonna maximize it to the most that I can. So that's kind of the mentality that I have on that, and it's been nothing short of amazing.
Yeah, I can't speak. Oh, go ahead, Katie.
No, go ahead, Peter.
Okay, yeah, I can't speak from experience, but I do know a handful of people, both in the School of Engineering and outside the School of Engineering, that transferred either from engineering or from not engineering, like a whole mix of things. And once again, can't speak from experience, but I think they've all found it to be very happy with their decision. And I know sometimes maybe there's some weird things to work out in terms of advising, but we have Robin and Brett and a pretty fantastic advising staff. So I think it's people I know have had a pretty smooth transition.
Thank you, Peter and Michelle.
Alexia, did you have any follow-up questions with that?
No, not right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I think really, and we kind of answered this question a little bit in the last session too about transferring, is really, I think the best advice I can give is to kind of do some proactive planning in terms of what you're taking now and kind of how that will fit in, so that you're well aware of kind of the sequencing once you do start at CSU, and then there's no surprises. I don't know, I remember working with you, Michelle, kind of in your first year and kind of going over those courses and having to go through the process of reevaluation and that kind of stuff. And that can be really challenging. And so to do any of that work kind of prior to coming to CSU, Alexia, can be really useful. All right, again, I'm just gonna create some of that just open space. So if anybody wants to jump in with a question, I'm gonna create a little bit of space. I'm perfectly happy with silence. And so I'm gonna create some silence and we'll see if anyone jumps in with a question.
I have a question. I was wondering how tough was the learning curve for if y'all like didn't have a ton of engineering experience in high school?
I will speak to this right away. In high school, I didn't take physics, I didn't take calc. I had to do PACE my first semester. And even the second semester, I had to retake one PACE course because I was like 2 points off. And so I did that within the first 2 weeks so I could transfer into calc second semester. So it was a little hard, but I think the fact that I went to tutoring, I studied with my friends, I got all the help that I could, and like I just kept a positive spirit. And the fact that I knew I wanted to stay in engineering, that all helped a lot. So I mean, you can do anything you set your mind to, and that's what I did. So I would say it's tough, but not impossible for sure.
Yeah, kind of to build on that, I'm in the same boat. I didn't take AP biology or AP physics or anything in high school, and I think mentally I kind of prepared myself for this horrible, I don't want to say horrible experience, but like the hardest thing I've ever done, right? Like I was expecting to get to college and be just every hour of the day studying, which I don't, there is plenty of studying and there are plenty of times where you like get completely stressed out. But kind of to Katie's point is, you end up surrounding yourselves with people who are also studying the program. I know Katie and I are both on the same floor in one of the academic dorms. And even if you're not in one of those dorms, you kind of like surround yourself with people that are in those classes. And so you're all kind of doing it, together to some extent. And I don't know, I think you kind of like, there's this camaraderie that gets built up. And once again, there are days where it's not fun. There are days where you like wish you maybe you weren't studying engineering or whatever, but then those times where you feel like those times where it pays off and, you know, you have success or you do well in a class or you get an internship, the feelings of those times really make all of that hard work worth it.
Yeah, to also add, so it's really cool about our engineering program that I saw that I didn't see in a lot of other engineering programs was that we have you starting engineering your very first year. And so that really helps with that learning curve because you're starting to learn what I like to call the language of engineering. So you're starting to learn kind of what types of equations or what, I don't know, whatever there is in engineering. I feel like I should know that. I'm a fifth year. But you start to understand how engineering will start to fold, and this very first class is just a big overview. And so what I really liked about having that overview was I was like, cool, I want to do this one thing within engineering, and I finally got like this interest back, because I was the same way. I didn't really take physics. I think I took like regular biology, and that was kind of it. I did like the very basic stuff and was like, okay, cool, we're gonna do engineering. And yeah, in my fifth year, like all of us have been saying, that learning curve hasn't been hard at all because yeah, you're exposed to engineering your very first year, very first semester.
Yeah, and just real quick, that first year, in my opinion, like that first year is all about learning how to learn, right? Like you're throwing all this information, and so you kind of go through this process of like learning yourself and learning how you process information best. So that first year, you know, there's a lot of learning on how to learn and how to process all this information you're getting thrown at.
I have one more thing to add. So Peter kind of talked about it briefly, but we do have something called the Engineering Residential Learning Community, which maybe was talked about in a few sessions you've been to, but it's what me and Peter lived in the Academic Village Engineering Residence Hall. And it was a great experience just because I met Peter right off the bat. He's a mechanical engineer. I am in chemical and biological. Wouldn't have probably met him right away in our classes. But it was great because I had so many people on the floor that were all engineering students. And this way I was able to form those study groups right away. And I think that is like the biggest thing I can say about like the learning curve and everything is that once you find like people who are motivated like you, maybe in the same classes, you form this little like community with the people around you. And that's really what held me up throughout these last 5 years. I can probably say I wouldn't be in my fifth year if it wasn't for like my peers and the support of the faculty and everything. Right away, you feel supported and your teachers are here to see you succeed. And that's definitely the environment you'll have throughout your entire time through engineering here. So I think that helps a lot with the learning curve because similar to the other Katie, I started off in PACE and I was like, I didn't pass my AP Calc exam junior year and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? Because at that point, I thought I was going to be a lawyer until my senior year. And then I was like, oh, I could have used that AP Calc credit. So I was totally worried about being behind. But I mean, with the help of your peers and the faculty and all the free tutoring we have, it's so easy to just catch on and figure out what works for you.
Great. I'm going to ask a specific question, and if any of you who are participating in this, if you have questions, please again, just jump in. But I wanted to ask all of you panelists the question of what made you choose CSU over other programs that you had considered?
Yeah, so I chose CSU really because I was looking across all different disciplines for biomedical engineering within like literally from east to west, and saw that a lot of the biomedical engineering was very mechanical engineering based, and I really wanted to go into pharmaceuticals and biomaterials. And so when I looked more into like chemical and biological engineering, which is really funny because that was like my second choice if I didn't get into biomedical engineering anywhere, CSU kind of fell in my lap, and they told me about their dual degree, and yeah, I really just fell in love with how they merged those together. And when looking at plan of studies, I saw that they had classes called technical electives, and those really stood out to me because these technical electives are ways for you to kind of gauge what you want to do with this major. And so for me, I was interested in kind of understanding heart valve research. And so I took a class that actually isn't even an engineering class. So it's not even within the engineering department. It's with biomedical sciences. And so I took a class called cardiopulmonary physiology to learn about the science behind the heart versus the engineering side of the heart. And so that's really what drew me to CSU, is that they've really just thought about your curriculum and how broad biomedical engineering is.
Mine's pretty simple. I applied to a bunch of different schools, and once again, the dual program, being able to get two engineering majors in a 5-year span is very unique. And so, combination of that, and then I had been spending a few years in Texas, and so when I came up, and maybe a lot of you are from Colorado, but when I came up and saw Fort Collins, I just fell in love. And talking with different faculty, it was very apparent that there are a lot of opportunities. And as kind of Camille was saying, the program's broad, right? You can do all kinds of different things. So.
Yeah, going off of that, getting 2 engineering degrees in 5 years, that I think was the biggest thing for me, because like so many of my friends, they get 1 in 4, and I was like, man, I could get 2 in 1. And like with biomed and electrical, like that opens up my opportunities for like anything I want to do. And then also I am from Colorado, and I knew I wasn't ready to leave Colorado at 18. Even though now my family doesn't live in Colorado, so I don't know how well that worked, but yeah, so CSU was a perfect fit. And then my first time being in Fort Collins was actually for orientation, and it was beautiful and perfect, so it was a good choice.
Yeah, I have to second everything that's been said, but additionally, I would say that when I came on campus and I did like an engineering tour, that's what actually like solidified it for me. So when I was doing my college searches, similar to Camille, I looked at biomed schools all across the nation, stumbled upon CSU's dual degree, which sounded awesome. My parents were the ones that were like, this is insane, like you should totally consider this. So when I came to visit, that's kind of when I fell in love with CSU. And I loved that I got a tour from a current student. I could ask them anything I wanted, be like, tell me the real deal, like how is it, how's engineering here, do you like it, whatever. And it was really like that relationship that I built that way, and just seeing the current student talk about the community they've built and how they feel so supported in engineering. I think that's what solidified the decision for me, just because I knew with the rigorous curriculum I would need that support to get through it. And so like hearing that I could get that was, I think, what really pushed me to come here over some other schools.
What is some like things that you like to do for like student life or on your free time being in Colorado?
There is so much to do in Colorado. One of my favorite things to do with winter coming up is snowboard. I think anyone who lives in Colorado should try skiing or snowboarding at least once. It's such a great way to enjoy the mountains. But there's so much to do around Fort Collins as well. Like about 20 minutes from campus, we have Horsetooth Reservoir, which is a very popular spot for mountain biking, hiking, swimming and boating in the summers. And then, if you're down for winter hiking in the winters. But there's a lot to do. And I also just love, on campus, it's a very active campus. Like when we're in person all the time, we have so much green space, and you'll see all of that green space just filled up with students and dogs and like Frisbee and football and so many other things. So it's definitely a very like fun environment to be around. But yeah, if anyone else has anything to add.
I'll kind of go off the skiing and snowboarding thing. I am a Colorado native, and the CSU has a great outdoor program. And so I did the Learn to Ski thing this past February, and it's $90. There's 8 of you and 2 people that work with the outdoor program through CSU, and they take you up to Snowy Range in Wyoming. You get a lesson and all the equipment and an all-day ski pass for $90. So yeah, especially if you're coming from out of Colorado and you've never gone before, you can do skiing or snowboarding. So that was super awesome. And then also they do all sorts of other trips. They do like climbing trips, like intro to like rock climbing. They have snowshoeing trips, backpacking trips. So and you can rent a lot of stuff from them. And I've also participated in intramurals like soccer and volleyball, which all of it, yeah, super active, super awesome, all like really affordable. And you meet people that you never would have met otherwise. And so it's just a good way to like connect with people, especially outside of engineering. Yeah.
For Katie, I am also sorry there too. I'm also involved in soccer and I'm very outdoorsy. So how is that balancing your school and like being in the engineering program with all of that you like to on this side as well?
I mean, you just have to, like, you learn time management in college. I was so bad at it at the beginning. So just with time management, and then at least with intramurals, there's like seasons for like 4 or 5 weeks, and it's just like one night a week. There also is a club soccer team for girls. Their club, correct? Am I okay? Yeah. So you could try out for that. I don't know how rigorous that is, but I mean, things that you want to do and like self-care and like things that to de-stress, you make time for, and it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, Katie said a key couple of words there, time management. I think if anything, like obviously you learn all this technical coursework, but in the course of the 5 years, I think one of the most important things that I've learned, or I'm still honestly learning, is time management. You could spend, and I know people, and I'm sure all of us here on this panel have been to the point where you wake up, you start studying and doing homework, and you do it until the time you go to bed, and then it turns into that every single day. Well, it doesn't need to be that. It's all about time management and being efficient with your time. So, I'm a full-time student right now, and I'm taking like a course external to CSU, and I'm working part-time, and I still have time to do 14ers on the weekend or whatever. So there's certainly time. It's just all about like making the time.
Thank you, Peter and Katie.
So Lauren asked a question in the chat about kind of the flexibility of the program and taking additional courses kind of outside the degree plan. If any of you panelists have any kind of thoughts or feedback about kind of taking additional courses outside of what's required, I'll leave a little bit of space there, and then I can certainly loop back kind of from the advisor perspective and answer that question.
Yeah, I can kind of speak personally about this. In my opinion, there's a ton of flexibility. And the amount of flexibility kind of depends on how strategic you are, which your advisor will help you be. I'm doing like a biological math minor, which is like additional math classes. And then I'm also doing a quality science micro-credential through an external institution. But through that, I have to take, a business course. I have to take a microbiology course I wouldn't have had to take. So I mean, from my experience, granted, I am doing it an extra year, there's certainly time to be, adding courses that are more interesting to you. And then as kind of previously touched on, we have these categories of classes that you have to take called technical electives and then broad technical electives. And so there's already the opportunity built into the curriculum to take classes that you're interested in, whether it be, something more electrical or, as Michelle was saying, cardiovascular, this or that, there's definitely room to take those classes and topics that you're interested in.
Yeah, and also add to that, so there are kind of two routes to go with this. You can take a minor in STEM, or you can take a minor that's not in STEM. To do a minor in STEM, like Peter was talking about, I believe that minor that you're doing is like 3 additional classes, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, or 4 additional classes. I know at one point I was like looking and doing like a minor in chemistry and then a minor in math, because they also were like 2 additional classes. So to do classes like that, it also just depends on how many credits you come in with. If you come in with like a lot of math credit and a lot of like biology and chemistry credit, like you can just input those minor courses in place of those classes. However, if you are doing a non-STEM related minor. So like the languages that you were talking about, Lauren, we actually have another student ambassador who's doing environmental engineering, who's also doing a minor in, I believe it's Spanish, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. And so that tacked on, I believe, an additional semester for her. So for me, if we're being honest, like if you are very interested in taking different languages or pursuing a minor in something that you're super interested in, definitely do it. Like it, I mean, that's what college is, right? It's for you to be able to learn more about these different aspects of things that you're interested in. And for us as engineers, we're not only just interested in STEM majors, we're interested in a lot of other things. I actually have a friend who's triple majoring. He's doing this dual degree as well as doing a major in, like, I think it's concert music or something. And so he was able to do that, and it doesn't tack on any additional years. He is taking 18, 19 credits, but he seems to be having fun, so that's good.
Yeah, so to kind of loop back on that from my perspective, and then I can, if Katie, if you had Katie B, if you had some additional feedback on that, please jump in. But kind of from the advisor perspective, I think, yeah, absolutely what you're saying, Camille, Peter, that, you know, if you've got space, there is some flexibility with your degree plan and kind of moving stuff around. But really, I think, Camille, you mentioned the piece of if you really want something kind of outside of your academics, to really pursue that and kind of make yourself well-rounded. And we have lots of examples of students that are doing additional things, right? So we do have triple majors in music. We do have quite a few students who are earning minors. The most popular minor is actually a music minor, which kind of makes sense. We find that there's this beautiful marriage between how your mind works as an engineer and how you're able to kind of understand and perform and do music. So that's kind of our most popular. We also have students that are doing minors that are really unrelated to engineering, or I guess unrelated in some ways, maybe academically, but we've got students that are doing minors in ethnic studies. We also have students who are doing minors in business or entrepreneurship. So really trying to kind of make yourself a well-rounded individual. So there's that space. It really kind of just depends on if you want to add additional time, or if you want to take and use your summers to do minors and add additional academic programs. I find that with languages, adding time in the summer to kind of focus your energy in the summer on your language courses, or maybe a short-term study abroad experience, is a really amazing way to earn courses or credits in that minor. I'm going to drop in the chat. Camille earlier in our earlier session had put the links to all the different degree programs. I'm going to put that in the chat. So if you want to look at kind of the sequencing of courses, do that. When we look at those plans look very rigid, and that's a hard thing to navigate. So if you have questions, just make sure you're reaching out to me about kind of what credits you may transfer in it, so I can kind of shed some light on what that may look like.
And go ahead, Katie.
Robin brought up summer classes, and although I'm just double majoring and I don't have any minors or anything, I have taken at least 1 or 2 summer classes, either in person or online, every single summer since I've been here, just to like lighten my course load through the semesters. So I would really recommend that, because it makes your semesters so much lighter. But also, if you're looking to add on a minor or another major, summer classes will really help you like free up time to do that too. And it's really not bad. Even with internships, taking 2 summer classes is like working full time. It's not bad. So.
All right, this is, Robin may say shut your mouth, but I had actually started, like I had picked, part of the reason I had picked the dual engineering program was I thought I wanted to become a doctor, but I didn't want to study biology, and I didn't want to study chemistry as like my only, major. And so I will note that, especially if you're in CBE, because you take kind of more biological and chemical classes, you can, in your 5 years, get your 2 majors and then also satisfy the prereqs for either dental school or med school. So I'm no longer going that route, but that is it's depending on what you're looking for in life or what you're interested in, that is something.
Absolutely, that is a great comment. I would never have told you to stop talking on that one. So thank you for adding that, Peter. For those of you that are considering any of the health professions, this is oftentimes a really great opportunity for students to consider kind of something that may be more kind of career applicable with engineering, or something that kind of prepares you for a health profession. So a lot of students that come into our program kind of wear both hats of, well, I think I want to go into a health profession, but I also want to kind of keep this opportunity open to maybe go into a particular career with engineering. So kind of wearing both hats. And we find that some students, we do have students, kind of a pretty small number every year that do go into professional schools, kind of around like anywhere from 1 to 5 students that go to professional schools like medical schools or dental school. Now we're seeing a little bit more of an emergence of students wanting to go into vet school that are part of our program. And the reason why that number is typically small every year is because this is a pretty rigorous, demanding degree program. And so we see students that after kind of doing this demanding degree really see a lot of experiences in wanting to go into the career opportunities within engineering. And we haven't done a great job with our alumni. It's not that we haven't done a great job, we just haven't seen the numbers yet of students who have kind of graduated from our program, gone into industry, and then have gone back to a professional school. We haven't really seen that happen yet, but that is certainly another opportunity too. I want to create another little kind of open space, some dead air, just to see if there's any additional questions from those of you that are joining us and kind of listening in on our panelists.
I have another question. What's one thing that about like your college experience that you didn't expect going into it, just like in general?
If I could, sorry, Camille.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. I think that like I always had like this like dream, I guess, or like wish to study abroad, but I didn't think it was going to be possible just because of how Robin mentioned that like if you look at the course catalog or whatever, it like looks really, really rigid and like there's not a lot of space. But I think once you sit down with your advisor and you like break it down, it's like so much more flexible and like fluid than what it looks like. And so I would say that, yeah, like the way that I could, kind of, it's like Tetris. You kind of like put things where they fit and you can like, move things around to different semesters. And so it's not like you have to take like these 4 things and this semester only. It's like you can work with it like really well. And so like recognizing that and like sitting down with my advisors and saying like, oh, okay, you can put this off to like your 5th year or your 4th year, then it's like, oh, I have some space. And like, if you want to study abroad or if you want to do a co-op or something like that, it's like, oh, okay, I have space for that. And so, yeah, those experiences also are like some of the, I mean, when I've spoken to peers and everything, those are some of the biggest experiences, just because it's like, you're not just like doing school, like you're living, you're working, you're doing the whole life experience in a different country or in a different region. And like, that's so like quintessential to personal growth, in my opinion.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh.
No, go ahead, Camille.
Here? Okay. Piggybacking off of Michelle, yeah, I didn't expect to be able to move a lot of what I wanted to do. Or for me personally, I have worked, I think it's now 3 jobs on campus, and this semester and my 3rd year fall semester, I worked 2 jobs. So I didn't expect to be able to have time to do that as well. And that's just because, yeah, I've been able to talk to my advisors and be like, so I do need to work and I do need to do this, or I do want to do this internship, or I do want to study abroad. And for them to be able to be like, yeah, we're going to move these classes or make this load a little bit lighter so that you're able to work that job. And then the second thing, I kind of had 2 answers to this, was I didn't expect to change my mind within a major, if that makes sense. So I didn't expect I came in completely wanting to do pharmacy and work with pharmaceuticals, and then in my 5th year, I don't really know yet. But that's the beauty of it, is that I was able to broaden what I wanted to do, but I now know that I want to do something in either pharmaceuticals or kind of research or kind of like with biomaterials. And so that's something that I didn't expect, is to just kind of change my mind, but also understand that what I want to do with this major, if that makes sense.
I think kind of to touch on both Michelle and Camille, I've been kind of surprised at how much you can fit in a given time. Like being an engineering student in my eyes is a full-time job. But with that being said, I've been surprised that like there still is time to go skiing with your friends on the weekend. Like every once in a while, there's time to go fly home or fly somewhere else. Like there's time to work a job and still have a social life, I think, to me. Especially, and I think that's something you kind of learn after first year, maybe a little bit more, because you've like kind of figured yourself out a little bit more and like how to learn. But yeah, like it's surprising that you can be doing this incredibly hard program, taking some of the like hardest classes that CSU has to offer, and still have time to go get a drink or still have time to go on a hike, or there's so many opportunities, and there is more time than you would think to do these other fun things that life has to offer.
So we've got about 10 more minutes kind of this panel. So I want to make sure that if there's any other questions, we'll create a little space to ask any of those questions.
I have one. So I am personally not thinking of going to the career of engineering. Engineering is like my basis level for med school. That's the plan at the moment. But how do you feel that like the engineering degree in classes has like prepared you for just coming out with a bachelor degree and still going into industry?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the best things that I've learned from engineering is, in addition to the technical side, are the soft skills that you learned. So I've learned a lot of like how to talk to industry partners through our career fairs. So to kind of plug engineering success center, within our engineering success center, which is a specific success center for our engineers, we have mock interviews, resume reviews, and the career fair. So through the mock interviews, you go and talk to one of our people who work at the Engineering Success Center, like Katie. And essentially what you do for the first 30 minutes is you have that interview, right? And then the last 30 minutes, we kind of critique you or tell you what you did correct. And we just kind of chat about your how you did with your career fair. And so that really prepares you for interviews with industry partners. A second thing, and probably one of my favorites, is the resume reviews. So obviously engineering resumes look a little bit different from, say, an art major or a business major. We really like that like blocky text, and everything just kind of looks prim and proper. And so we look at that, and we also look at all the descriptions underneath your volunteer experience, your job experiences, whatever it may be. When I worked at Cam's Lobby Shop, which is an on-campus convenience store, truly all I did was say, here are your items, this is your amount, thank you very much, have a good day. But on my resume, it makes it look like I worked with money and math every single day of my life. Not really. And then the last thing is the career fair. And so we have the career fair twice a year, one in the spring and one in the fall, and we have about 80 employers come out. And what's really cool about that is that we ensure that you have employers for every single discipline so that you can kind of talk to them about what's going on in their industry, see what internships they have, or full-time opportunities after graduation. And so those are all the things that I've learned. I've learned everything from little things like making professional emails to talking to industry partners and kind of understanding that field of engineering and how they like to talk to students. They like it a little bit more where you're dressed up and you do a handshake and you have that elevator speech versus when you go to the all-campus career fair, it seems a little bit more casual. And so I'd say a lot of the soft skills will really help you when you go out into industry.
So Caitlin, to kind of give you a simple answer, I would argue that by doing this dual engineering program, ultimately what you're proving and what that certificate shows is that you can solve problems and that you can process and learn dense, complicated information. So, and I can't speak from experience, but when a med school is looking at applicants, if you can solve problems, which doing a dual engineering program certainly shows that you can solve problems, and then be able to process and learn dense, complicated information, which I know there's plenty of that in med school, And then on top of that, which it seems like just from you asking your question and showing your camera, I would argue, you're probably a pretty personable person. And so on top of those two things, if you're personable and you can speak well, it's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to go wrong from there. Like, no matter what industry you're looking for, if you can solve problems, you can learn new information, and you can speak well, concisely, those three things will get you pretty far, I would argue, in pretty much any industry or field of study that you're looking at.
I would also say, I have like a couple friends that are going into med school, not through engineering, but they say med schools look a lot at your experience. And within engineering, like I think the best thing you can do to be prepared for med school or industry is to get that experience. And like Michelle said, with her experience outside of engineering, like with the neuroscience stuff, that's the best thing you can do to be prepared, I think.
Yeah, and if I can also mention like how I think Camille touched on the clinical immersion program and like other programs like that we have, that's like right up the alley of people who would like to go to med school. And then just like kind of going back to like the soft skills thing, like just general things, like let's be real, it's hard. These two degrees are like really hard, and like burnout is real, right? It's natural. It's something that we experience and something that we get through. But I think the biggest thing that like these two engineering degrees, like pursuing them has taught me and a lot of my classmates is that it's a marathon and it's not a race. And so as someone who doesn't want to go to medical school, but I do want to go to graduate school after this, I know that there's still like another journey ahead of me, and like I'm probably only really halfway through right now, but it's all about just enjoying what you do. So I'd say like, you're going to hear both sides of the story. You're going to hear people who like, tried to get in med school, they couldn't, or they gave up, or people who did get in and they loved it and everything. But as long as you truly 100% enjoy what you're doing, you can do anything. And there's so many resources for you to do it too.
Thank you.
Cool. So seeing as how we have just 5 minutes left, I first just want to thank you all. So the five of you who are participating as our panelists, I want to thank you all so much. I'd said earlier in the previous session that I've been working with the School of Biomedical Engineering since 2016, which that was actually when most of you started. And so it's really cool for me to see all of you kind of become these, just this amazing kind of vocal piece of biomedical engineering and say all the things that I couldn't say very well. You all say it very, very well. So thank you all so much for participating. Those of you who are on the chat with us, if you want to drop your thanks and everything in the chat, please do so. But thank you so much for being a part of this. And as kind of a final parting moment, if you given that we only have a couple minutes left, if you want to give kind of just a one sentence or kind of quote or something that the advice that you would have given your entering college experience self, what advice would you have given yourself kind of thinking back?
I'll go first, especially being in electrical engineering and not even knowing what that meant in the beginning. I would say don't be afraid to fail, because it probably will happen at least once, to me, many more times than once. But I mean, here I am in my 5th year. So yeah, don't be afraid to fail, because it'll all work out how it's supposed to.
I second that, but I was also going to say just trust yourself and trust your gut feelings. It's really overwhelming going through the whole college search, but at the end of the day, like, you know how you feel and you know how each university or their people makes you feel. And I think that's a very good indicator of, how you'll feel once you go there. So trust that, and also, just trust yourself. Like if you're pursuing engineering, you're starting it for a reason and you're interested in it for a reason. And remember that as you go through each year. I mean, there's plenty of times, especially sophomore year, I thought I was going to drop out and be done with engineering altogether. I was like, this is not for me. And, all it took was just remembering why I started in the first place. And here I am in my 5th year, so close to graduation. It's kind of surreal, but you can get through it. Just believe in yourself and trust your gut on where you feel you'll succeed the best.
Yeah, my piece of advice also piggybacks off of, I guess, both Katie's. wear your passions on your sleeve. Don't be afraid to tell people about what you want to do with your life or how engineering is going, because you never know who you're going to talk to, and you never know what you might learn from them. So even though you are going through college to learn about engineering and technical skills, don't be afraid to learn about other things within college.
And I would also second that, but I guess like Robin said, what's something you would tell your younger self? And if I was like back in my first year talking to myself, I would say just because like you don't see it being done by someone doesn't mean that you can't do it. So just because like you see something and you're like, oh, I don't know if I could do this and this, like it might be too hard, just do it anyway. If you fail along the way, you learn something. And that's a great approach to have.
I would say take care of yourself. It's sometimes easier said than done, but you know, get your sleep, eat properly, have fun, you know, do things with friends. Like, don't let yourself get too overwhelmed. And if you're not taking care of yourself, it makes the studying harder. You're not going to do as well. So that's kind of like a key foundation that I think's often overlooked.
Awesome, good advice. Well, thank you, Peter, Katie, Camille, Michelle. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for being here and being part of this. And for all of you that were here asking questions and just listening in, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your participation too. And we hope that you do absolutely think about choosing CSU. I think that these students gave you a really good sales pitch. So hopefully we'll see you very soon. And in the chat, looks like there's some information or a contact if you want to follow up with any of these questions. So thank you all. I'm just going to leave this meeting open. So those of you that are here and you want to just kind of leave the meeting on your own, that's fine. I'll just leave it open in case there are any additional questions.